Hello dear learners, and welcome you all to the next lecture of my course on financial literacy. This is module number 2, Key Concepts of Personal Finance, and lecture number 7, Components of Personal Finance, Borrowing, Income and Expenditure. In the previous lectures, we have discussed that what are the various aspects of saving and investment and why it is necessary for an individual to save as well as invest it into the various investment avenues. In today's lecture, we will be going to discuss what are the various pros and cons of borrowing and what is the concept of borrowing, as well as what are the various sources of borrowings that are available in the financial market. And we will also going to discuss the concept of income and expenses and various types of strategies that needs to be learned by an individual to make a proper balance between the income and expenses that they have in their life. Now, before discussing the various pros and cons of the borrowing, let us first understand why do we borrow and what is the importance of borrowing in one's life. Basically, whenever we are going to start any economic activity or any other kind of activity where we need a large amount of fund, we lack fund, and that is why we ask others to lend some money to us for the purpose of meeting our financial expenses. In today's world, financial needs are inevitable part of the life and enormous, and it is often not possible to fulfill the financial needs on your own. In today's world, financial needs are enormous and inevitable in one's life, and that is why it is often not possible for us to fulfill these needs by our own. So, as a result, we borrow money from others. Borrowing is basically a process whereby two parties are involved. One is known as the lender of the money, whereas the another one is known as the borrower of the money. The one who have the surplus money may lend their money on certain terms and conditions to the borrower for a certain period of time in expectation of some percentage of return from the borrower of the money. The borrower borrows the money from the lender, and in return he is required to pay a sum of interest to the lender of the money for that period, which typically depends on the nature of the lending arrangement. Basically, borrowing becomes very important to all of us whenever we are going to start any kind of economic activity and to meet our different kind of economic expenses. We need to have some financial support from others to make our economic activities possible as well as successful. So, as per the Oxford Dictionary, borrowing is basically the act of receiving something, especially money, from others and with an intention of returning it after using it in our economic activities. Now, let us discuss the various pros and cons of borrowing. The various pros and cons of borrowing may be categorized into three different categories. The number one, with the help of borrowing, we can very easily have access to some additional fund that can help us to start some new economic activity or investment. Second, it can help us to seize the best opportunities that are available into the market, and it also helps us to achieve economic growth in the life. So, borrowing may be helpful to the individual if they utilize the amount of money that is borrowed by them in a profitable manner. Whereas there are some limitations that are associated with the process of borrowing. The borrowing may charge something or may charge against the profits that you earn from your economic investment. Whenever you take money from others, you need to pay some interest to the lenders of the money, and that is why it charges against the profit of the investment. So, there are some limitations associated with the process of borrowing also, such as the charge against profit, fixed deposit, as well as debt liability. Whenever we take loan from others, it may create these challenges for us. Now, let us discuss these pros and cons in detail. The various advantages or pros of borrowings are access to fund. Whenever we are trying to do any new economic activity and lacking finances, we can very easily have some additional financial support in the form of borrowing from others. So, borrowing allow individuals to expand their capital size, and insufficiency of funds do not make their economic activities stop. So, basically enabling to achieve your goal with the help of taking borrowings may be advantageous for the economic activities. Then the next advantage of borrowing may be it helps you to seize the best opportunities in the market. With the help of sufficient fund, you can very easily grab whatever new opportunities of economic investments are available into the market. As soon as a new opportunity arises into the market, the borrower can very easily grab that opportunity and capitalize their fund on it. Then their next one is the economic growth. With the help of borrowings, you can very easily have economic growth in your life if you have invested it wisely into the various investment avenues that gives you wealth accumulation and economic growth. So, by supporting your business activities, by letting you do your economic activities at a full scale, borrowings may help you to create wealth in the future and to achieve the economic growth. Whereas the limitation of the borrowings may be charge against the profit, fixed payments as well as debt liability. So, whenever we take money from others and we keep it for some time for the purpose of investment with us, we need to pay a part of our revenue earned on the economic activity as the interest payment. So, that is known as the charge against profit, as well as there may be some fixed payment, because it is not always possible that whatever amount of money you have invested into the market, you will always earn profits on your investment. So, in the cases where you are not earning sufficient profit, then also you'll have to pay interest to the lenders of the money. This is the case of fixed payments, so that may become a financial burden for the individuals who are borrowing loans from others. Whereas the debt liability is also created. Borrowing creates an additional financial liability for the borrower. In times of economic downturn, with the financial difficulty, it may be very difficult for an individual to clear all the debt liability that they have, as well as this debt liability may also create financial stress and financial burden on them. So, these are the various pros and cons that are associated with the concept of borrowing. Now, let us understand what are the various sources of borrowing. So, here we can see that there are basically two types of sources. One is short term sources as well as the another one is the long term sources. As the name suggests, the short term sources are the various types of sources that helps you to achieve or procure the funds for a very short period of time, say for a period of 1 year. Whereas the long term sources are the various types of sources which may be acquired for the purpose of taking the loan for more than 5 years, as well as it also helps you to make investment into long term investment opportunities. So, long term sources are the sources where you need to give some additional percentage of interest to the lender of money, but you can have the money for a longer period of time with you, say 2 to 5 years or more than 5 years also, and you can invest it into the market for a longer period of time. Now, let us discuss the various types of short-term sources of borrowings in market that are available are bank short-term credit. Now, banks are one of the oldest and most popular sources of borrowing due to their reliable nature and secure nature. So, basically individuals as well as businessmen, they rely on the banking system of the country for the purpose of taking credit from them. So short-term credit needs of the businessmen are fulfilled by the banking companies very effectively. So bank short-term credit may be for a short-term period, say for 6 months, for 1 year or less than 1 year. So the short-term credit provides you loan on some percentage of interest, as well as it also allows you to have financial security. Next is bank overdraft facility. Basically, a customer who holds a current account into the banking company, they can very easily access the overdraft facility provided by the banking companies. So whenever a bank sees that there is a customer with a good credit history and having a current account in their bank, they allow them to have a certain amount of overdraft facility where they can withdraw money from the bank whether there is a balance available in their bank account or not, using the overdraft facility of the bank. So in the time of financial crisis, the overdraft facilities can be a boon for the businessmen and the individuals. Now, the next one is the public deposits. Reputable companies can raise the funds by borrowing from the general public through issuing the public deposits. These deposits must be repaid after a fixed period of time along with the interest to the various lenders of the money. So, this is known as the public deposits. Now, let us discuss the various long-term sources of borrowings that are available into the market. So, long-term sources of the borrowings are divided into the various categories. One is bonds, then long-term loans and debentures. Bonds are basically the creditorship securities that we had already discussed in our previous lecture in the topic of investment avenues, where the lender of the money becomes the creditor and the issuer becomes the debtor of the company. So, bonds are issued by the reputed companies or government for a fixed period of time, and during which the interest is paid to the lender of the money by the issuer. Next is long-term loans. Long-term loans are another source of long-term borrowings for the company and the individuals, which can be obtained from banks as well as financial institutions and intermediaries. These loans are typically provided to the consumers or the businessmen over a long period of time, say 2 to 4 years or more than 5 years also. Then comes the next category, that is the debentures. Debentures are a form of credit that is issued by the company to raise long-term funds for their company. Debenture holders are basically the creditors of the company, and they do not become the owner of the company. Also, they do not have any kind of ownership right in the company. They do have some preferential right that is known as the payment of interest towards the debenture. And they also get their repayment of the principal amount at the time of maturity by the company. So, this is also a type of the long-term sources of borrowing. So, with this discussion, we have understood that the borrowings are very much important for the individual entrepreneurs and businessmen to start their economic activities at a full scale, as well as utilize the various types of opportunities that are available into the market. So, depending on the needs of one individual, they must decide what are the different sources that may be beneficial for them for acquiring or procuring finances with the help of the borrowed financing. Okay. So, now let us discuss the next part of our lecture, that is the income and expenses. So, income is basically the amount of revenue that is earned by an individual in exchange of any kind of services or products or work performed by one for the other. It can be generated by providing services for the others, selling products or commodities in the market, or applying one's skill, such as medical practitioners, health professionals provide services to the others and they earn some income on the services that they have provided. In personal finance, managing your income is very essential for you because it can help you in having a proper balance in the maintenance of your income as well as your expenses, and hence it will help you to save enough for your future. Effective management of the income ensures financial well-being and stability and allows you for the achievement of your long-term as well as short-term financial goals. So basically, this segment of personal finance focuses on managing one's income as well as the various types of methods with the help of which we can increase or enhance the income in our life to have enough amount of finances with us to meet our day-to-day expenditures, contingencies as well as the long-term goals of our life. Now let us discuss what are the various factors that affects the income earning capacity of any individual in their life. So the various factors affecting a person's income may be: the first one is formal education. A person's income is directly related with the formal education he or she have earned during his or her life. So by the level of education they have attained and their educational background contribute a lot to the earning capacity of one's. So whatever kind of job, whatever kind of professions they are having, that always depends on the formal education that they have. So people are those who are having higher professional degrees such as masters or PhD or BTech or any other kind of higher professional degree, they typically have higher sources of income, whereas the individual who have only earned a sufficient amount of level of education, they may find it difficult to increase their level of income. Next is level of expertise. After having a certain amount of experience in a particular field, when one becomes expert in their field and earns certain personal skills as well as capability, then they always have enough income for their products and services that they render to the other parties. These skills can include both the soft skills and the hard skills depending on the nature of their work, whatever they are performing. So obviously the next part is the level of expertise that one individual is having. The next part is the geographical region. Income also depends on the geographical region in which the person works, as well as it significantly influences the income level of the entrepreneurs. For example, individuals who are working in a rural or semi-urban area may have a lower amount of income, whereas the persons who are working into the urban areas, they may have higher income as compared to the other individuals. So the income is directly related with the formal education, level of expertise as well as the geographical region from where an individual belongs. Now let us understand the concept of expenses. Basically, expenses are the amount that an individual spends for the purpose of satisfying their needs and wants out of the total income that they have earned from the various economic activities. These expenditures can be directed towards the day-to-day as well as the other type of financial expenditures that they have in their life. So the various types of expenditures may be categorized into two categories. The number one is non-discretionary expenditure and the second one is the discretionary expenditures. Basically, non-discretionary expenditures are the expenditures that are of essential nature. So, to maintain our standard of life, to fulfill our basic needs, we need to spend our money into the discretionary expenditures of our life. For example, the payment of rent, the payment of mortgages, the payment of various types of utilities such as electricity, water, internet and other facility that we need to have so as to survive in our life. Whereas the discretionary expenditures are the various non-essential costs that are based on personal preferences or lifestyle choices of one's life. They basically include the various expenditures that are done for the purpose of luxury shoppings, brand name shoppings, dining out and entertainment, travel and vacation, hobbies, and other recreational activities. So basically, these discretionary expenses are of the nature which can be postponed for a particular period of time if they are not urgent. So we can very easily understand that the discretionary expenditures can be postponed for a shorter period of time, whereas the non-discretionary expenses are urgently required to be met for maintaining our living standard. After understanding the concept of discretionary and non-discretionary expenditure, now let us understand how we can efficiently manage our income and expenses so as to have sufficient amount of saving and thereby investing it into the profitable investment avenues. Now, any individual, before spending their money and meeting their expenditure, must prepare a budget so as to control their unnecessary or discretionary expenditures. Basically, budgeting helps us to control our spending by guiding us where our money is actually going. It enables us to avoid the unnecessary expenditure as well as to prioritize our financial goal. Next is proper estimation. We can very easily manage our income and expenditure by properly estimating the various sources of income that we may have during a certain period of time, as well as by estimating our future expenditures that needs to be paid in the near future. We can have a better control on our spending habit if we ensure that we should live within our means only. Next is planning. So before spending, it is essential that we should have a clear plan in place with us. Having a framework or how you need to allocate your various income into the different expenditure, we must ensure that money is spent on productive and meaningful areas only that may contribute to the financial well-being of an individual in the future. So with applying all these techniques, we can very easily manage our expenditure. So let us understand how we can have a proper balance between income and expenses. So by doing all these activities, we can maintain a proper balance between the income and expenses, and thus we can ensure our financial stability very easily. First one is budgeting tools and app. We can take the help of various types of budgeting applications, and we can consider the various types of apps like Mint, You Need a Budget, as well as some other types of budgeting tools. With the help of this, we can categorize the various sources of income and we can estimate our expenses, and we can also very easily develop a good financial habit of preparing the budget. We can also track our expenses and regularly monitor our transaction and understand where our money is actually going and whether this will be going to contribute in the financial well-being of our life or not. Next is we must need to learn to set clear financial goals for us. Short-term and long-term goals must be set before the spending of money, and we must define what we want to achieve over a long period of time by spending our money. So we need to plan for our retirement, we need to plan for our education, as well as some other type of expenditure that we need to do. Now, we need to understand also prioritizing our debt management. High interest debt that focuses on paying off high interest debts like credit cards, as they quickly can erode our financial health, must be avoided by the individuals, whereas we also must devise some debt payment strategies so as to pay our debts on time. So, paying our interest at the regular intervals as well as paying our principal amount of borrowings at the time of maturity is necessary to avoid any kind of financial stress and financial debt in our life. Next is we must plan for irregular expenses. Annual or unexpected cost may be there in our life, and we must allocate some additional fund monthly for the purpose of meeting such kind of contingencies and irregular expenses that may occur annually in our life. So insurance premium may be there, taxes may be there, and we must divide it into a certain period of time, quarterly, monthly or annually, and we should contribute into a provision for the purpose of creating enough amount of fund for the payment of all these irregular expenses. Then regularly reviewing and adjusting your budget is the next step of maintaining the balance between the income and expenses. We need to have revising our plans as well as our financial budget so as to have financial security in our spending management. So a proper balanced budget should be prioritized by every individual, and non-discretionary expenditures must be controlled, as well as discretionary expenditures, if they are not required at a present time, must be avoided by the individual so as to have a secured financial future. With this, we come to an conclusion of this lecture, and I hope I am clear to make you understand what is the importance of understanding the concept of income, expenses and borrowings for the purpose of attaining the financial well-being. Thank you.